So if you're struggling psychologically or with a quote unquote mental illness, I have to make one thing clear. You do not have a chemical imbalance in your brain. This has never scientifically been proven, and many times it has been disproven. The problem is that our modern society is ingrained with the belief that if you are struggling with any sort of psychological problem, you need a doctor, you need mind-altering drugs. But if we just analyze this, we can easily understand the human person is a complex being composed of body, mind, soul, spirit. All of these things can have problems. We can have so many psychological problems that do not stem from some sort of disease or chemical imbalance in the brain, right? And the problem is that modern psychiatry has pushed this lie for so many years that people believe this. You know, if you have a loved one that's sick, that they're struggling with any sort of mental problem, you tell them, oh, just go to the doctor, they'll help you, they'll cure you. But the truth is, if we look objectively at the results, psychiatry is not healing, it is not treating, and it is not improving mental illness. If we look, there's more people taking psychiatric medications now than at any time in history, and we also have more mental illness disability than at any time in history. So this tells us one of two things. Number one, the treatment isn't working. If it was working, the disability rates would go down, people would be healed, they would be cured. That's not happening. Number two, this tells us that by all accounts, the treatment is actually making things worse. This is easy to understand if you look into the science of psychiatric medications. The longer people take them, the more side effects they have mentally, physically, they become more sick. This can actually worsen mental illness. And there's not a lot of long-term studies on the long-term effects of these medications. So we don't actually understand what happens to a person when they're taking psych meds for 10, 20, 30 years. And then we see all these people getting mentally ill and we're wondering why it's happening. This is the science. You guys can look into it. There are plenty of psychiatrists that are saying the same things that I'm saying. They're speaking out against the system. So what I really have to point out is that up until modern times, if a person was struggling mentally and psychologically, they would not turn to a healthcare professional. They would not go to a doctor and look for some sort of magic pill or treatment. They would try to figure out the things that were happening in their lives. They would try to take care of their health holistically, not just their mind, but their body, their soul. They would actually treat the whole human person. And we did not have the mental disabilities that we have nowadays. It just did not happen. So all we have to do is take a step back and say, look, we've been ingrained as a society to believe that every sort of mental problem is a disease of the brain. It's a chemical imbalance. If we start to look into the facts, if we look into the science, there's no proof for this. There's absolutely zero evidence that this is a case, and the treatments are not helping. The treatments are making things worse. So again, we really have to take a step back and say, look, is it the role of a medical professional to be trying to treat and understand something as complex as the human mind, soul, and spirit?